People all over the world believe in demons and the real dangers they pose. From possessing us to tempting us to sin in order to gain our souls forever, demons aren't worth hanging around. With the Ouija board gaining popularity in the West back in the 1900s, we started seeing many more demons summoned up from the pits of hell. These 5 real-life demons summoned from Ouija boards aren't visitors you want to mess around with, ever. Before we begin, make sure you hit that subscribe button to get notified every day for more amazing content. With that being said, let's begin. Number 5. Demonic Pianist. Our first demon is unknown, but comes to us from Lee Roberts, one of a team who consider themselves to be paranormal investigators. The footage comes out of Mansfield, Nottinghamshire in the UK. Lee has been hunting ghosts for a long time now, and is convinced that the piano is possessed by a demon. He cited the use of the site for seances being a possible reason why the demon inhabits that particular building. He also said that Ouija boards are routinely used near the piano, and said that he's sure the creepy kids game had to have a part in the summoning. Lee is a little different than many paranormal enthusiasts because he first approaches any potential sighting with science in mind. After discounting anything physical or natural, he then moves in and investigates the possibility of paranormal influences. His hope is that he's eventually able to prove that the piano is being used by some lesser demon to communicate. The notes heard in this video are the same he and others had heard previously, which led him to set up the camera and capture the weird occurrence. The rest of his team is definitely spooked when they hear the notes being played, and nobody can think of any reason how this could be anything other than a ghost or demon. We think that this could also be a minor case of mass hysteria based on a good prank, but they seem to think differently. While we can't discount that something odd was going on, it does seem strange that a demon would use a piano to try to communicate with a group of ghost hunters. We'd expect a minion of hell to have a little more kick, as well as being able to make a better appearance than that. Beethoven's Fifth is a little more apt of a tune for a demon to hammer down on than a couple of sad little notes played together with all of one finger. If this was an actual demon, then the big guy down below really needs to drill his servants a little better. It's clear that he's probably not gonna bag any wayward souls in this group. Scared by a piano in the dark. That's cute. Maybe it was simply a runaway imp with lofty dreams of demonic possession. If you really want to find out, we suggest you get in touch with Lee and take a look for yourselves, because Nottinghamshire unfortunately doesn't rank on any list of tourist destinations we could come up with. Number 4. Zozo. And so we're moving on and digging into a little lore for the rest of our demons. Zozo supposedly is summoned up by one word: darkness. We like that outcome a little more than outright death or eternal damnation, but the underlying connotations are still very much there. We first hear about Zozo in 1816, when a young French girl fell under his otherworldly control. Zozo wasn't the only demon to possess this girl, based on a number of accounts, which would have made her life pretty rough. We've got to admit that nobody back then was really doing well, but piling demonic possession on top of everyday life in 1800s France would seriously be a drag. Zozo then remained relatively unknown until the Ouija board craze kicked into high gear in the 1900s. Many people began to warn the world that playing with these boards was playing with fire. Much like a few wackos told us the Large Hadron Collider would be the end of the universe as we know it. We're still here and the LHC is working like a dream, but disproving Ouija demons is seemingly a little more of an art form. By most accounts, Zozo usually starts a meet and greet with a friendly disposition, usually using a different name. A somewhat rare but still quite widely reported occurrence involves Zozo butting into your chat with another demon and taking over the interaction. When Zozo finally reveals himself, the planchette is supposed to make inverted Z-shapes on the board, with answers becoming repetitive. This is when things usually take a turn for the worse. Given Zozo's penchant for possession, it's probably best to avoid this creepy trickster. A further claim made with regards to Zozo's power is that he's able to take over your mind and read it like an open book and manipulate the physical world at will. We're not sure what to make of this demon's tale. If anyone you know is superstitious and maybe a little curious, we say you drop that board down and immediately invoke Zozo's name in front of him just to see how things go. At the very least, you'll manage to freak him out a little bit, making it all worthwhile. Number 3. Mogwai. As you may be aware, Ouija boards were first used in ancient China to either tell the future or get in touch with deceased ancestors and ask for advice. This ancient tradition goes back generations, and the Ouija board has only really been a kid's game for a tiny fraction of its existence. This being the case, we thought we'd cover the original demons that have been summoned completely by accident by Ouija boards since back in the day, right in the birthplace of Ouija itself. The Mogwai are demons featured in Chinese tradition. They are the most prone to hurt people and lead humans down a path of sin in the hope of gaining their souls. Heavy rain is a bad omen, as that seems to be their mating season, signaling the harvest to come, at least for the demons themselves. We expect we're the harvest, and aren't all that happy thinking about that outcome. These demons can also be, in some cultures, simply tortured spirits trying to inflict damage on those who hurt them in life, which is a little less sinister and more of a creepy retribution. Not too much is known about these creatures, despite their long and storied history. They are elusive and actually able to cover a somewhat broad category of paranormal phenomena, albeit with some guidelines built in. The Gremlins movies from back in the day were based on Mogwai, although the rules were tweaked a little for the movie. The idea that you couldn't get them wet is, however, clearly based on the Mogwai legend. The reproductive nature of the Mogwai of legend fits this bill exactly, although the originals didn't sprout from one another's backs. Another similarity is that they were sensitive to sunlight while being more mischievous than terribly evil. If you want to roll the dice and get yourself a cute little furry Mogwai, go for it. We'll warn you, however, that you could very easily end up grabbing a hold of a more ancient form of spirit that you probably wouldn't want to wrangle with, water or no. Number 2. Belphegor. Belphegor isn't a demon anyone wants to summon, even for a laugh. He is one of 7 princes of hell, according to the Hebrew tradition, and claims souls by suggesting fanciful inventions that'll make his target rich. Many people have been convinced that the sin he really goes for a stranglehold on is sloth, but that remains a point of contention with scholars to this day. A little bit of fun trivia, Belphegor even has his own prime number, which is 100000, we'll just put it on the screen. That's an odd homage to an odd demon. Made even odder is that he's basically a crap demon to boot. He was also a big fan of orgies, and his worshippers used a phallus to symbolize their demonic overlord. He's considered a crap demon because his traditional sacrificial offering is, human feces. This makes Belphegor a most unpleasant demon to try to summon, as dropping a deuce on your Ouija board kind of makes it a one-time use kind of deal. That would also be an awkward situation to have to explain should someone come in partway through. It's amazing what lengths some people will go in order to secure their financial future. Too bad most of his victims not only had to squeeze one out in order to summon him, but were then his subjects for all of eternity. We don't want to know what kinds of things a crap demon gets up to on Earth, not to mention back in hell. Those who have fallen prey to his seduction by the way of wealth and power, eventually leading to chronic sloth, most probably have to wallow in a big old pile of excrement more often than not. That's a hard pass from us, thanks very much. Then again, we could just be focusing on the wrong aspects here. He does have to be summoned with poop, but that doesn't mean he's all about it as punishment. It should be said that Kevin Smith probably overdid it during Belphegor's appearance in the movie Dogma, but he really did appreciate this underrated demon getting his big debut on the silver screen. Number 1. Jikaninki. Not strictly a demon per se, but one the paranormal community overwhelmingly can summon through Ouija boards are the Japanese Jininki. Their names literally translate to human-eating ghosts and are said to be the spirits of the greedy and selfish, cursed forever in the afterlife. These ghosts are tasked with finding and consuming human corpses, quite neatly explaining away the process of decomposition back in those superstitious times. In ancient times, this legend was taken so seriously that entire villages would sometimes retreat to another nearby community for the night after a death had occurred. This allowed the Jikaninki to go about their tasks without any fear of them accidentally harming a living person. The Jikaninki are basically Japanese Wendigos, making them truly terrifying if ever encountered. They don't seem to have an appetite for living flesh, however, which is a bit of a win in that regard. Upon seeing one of these demons, a victim is supposed to remain frozen in fear throughout the incident, completely unable to move. These spirits do have a positive aspect to their life of eternal damnation, as they can be redeemed by the living, according to some scholars. If the right prayers are said by the right people, the curse can be lifted, although this doesn't seem to happen often. On top of being described like Wendigos, the Jikaninki have also been likened to modern-day depictions of zombies. They're supposed to be covered in sores, shuffle around, suffer hair loss, and have sharp claws. Their grotesque appearance is partially attributed to the fact that people who see them end up too scared to move, their brains shutting down with revulsion. While these hideous demons aren't really a threat to the living, you don't want to take any chances. They also seem like a very unpleasant group to be around, so we'd advise against it no matter what precautions you take. You really don't want a decomposing zombie lurking around in your attic after accidentally unleashing holy hell on the entire place. Then again, if you can redeem it with a few expertly placed prayers and you're feeling generous, we think that would be one hell of a good deed, with one less demon for us to worry about. Hope you enjoyed the video, folks. If you did, make sure you click that subscribe button before you head out if you're new. That's all you have to do. Come on, just click it. I know you want to. Oh, and if you enjoyed the video, drop a like. Heard it gives you superpowers in the future or something. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.